So this is what the UI will look like basically when you've logged in, you've pressed the install button, everything's set up like this by default. This is how your UI should look. The color might be different, and I'll show you how you can change that later on if that's something you're interested in. Now maybe the scaling's a little bit off, and that does happen. Things might be too zoomed in or zoomed out. And the way you change that, you'll press escape, go to system, go to advanced, click this UI scale, and then set it to change this bar until you get it right. So mine's just right there. So that's good for me, so we're going to leave mine like that, and that gives me the perfect UI scale. It's not too big, not too small, it fits perfectly. So most of the configuration is going to come from the top right. There's going to be this options button, little cog. If you left click it, it'll open the LUI options. If you right click it, it'll open the WoW options. So we want to left click this, and this will give you basically the LUI settings. So you don't really need to worry about the general options here. This doesn't really do much, but we're going to click on general, we're going to go to settings, and we're going to scroll down. So this is probably one thing that you'll be interested in. You can set up things like auto enable auto invites and things like that. So if someone invites you, it'll auto accept them. And small little features like that is kind of cool. And you can do it to auto invite from friends and guildmates only as well. So if you want to be auto invited to raids, you don't want to miss it if you're AFK. Things like that are kind of cool. But this is for the damage and font. So when I'm in combat, I hit something. For example, if we hit this poor plane strider. Yeah, I'm clicking, I've got no keybids. Come on, man. So, hit the poor plane strider in the face. We got that nice sort of combat text. Oh, we missed. Let's do a white hit, just so you can see it. So, the combat text is kind of nice. It's better than the standard, anyway. And you can change that. There's multiple settings, and you can add more into the fonts folder if you want more. And you can go for whatever you want, basically. So, that's how you'll change the fonts and things like that. Add-ons, you don't really need to worry about this too much unless you mess something up, so you can go, restore defaults, and that'll put the UI basically back to a default. If we go to the colors tab next, this will allow you to change the colors. So the color theme, so I can switch to Death Knight, that'll be red, Hunter, green, Shaman, and there's a few other colors as well, and you can get imported themes as well. If there's custom colors out there that you want, you can get them as well. Frames, this basically just allows you to change all the different colors, so even the orb. If you want to change the orb at the top, you can change the color of that, and you can just basically do whatever you want with the UI and have it exactly the color that you want it to be. So colors, I don't really need to go through too much. You just play around with that if you want a different color on your UI. Now frames, this is basically, so your chat window is obviously the chat. Your TPS is Omen. If we click these bottom buttons at the top, they'll turn on the different add-ons that are associated with them. So you have like Omen, you have Recount, things like that. So you'll be able to change these, where they're positioned, the settings basically with them, but I wouldn't really mess with these too much. You don't need to. Profiles, this is for if you want to like load a profile from a different character. So I do have profiles that I use on different characters, so I can just load my mains profile and it'll set it up automatically from my alt. So I have mine changed, so it'll change it all for me. Modules. So this is basically if you want to remove something. So if you don't want to use the LUI nameplates, then you can come here into modules and click nameplates, and it'll disable it. So you can use like tidy plates. If you don't want the like swing timer, you can disable swing timer. If you don't want like the threat bar that shows up underneath your bars, you can disable that here. You don't want the bag add-on. Anything that you want to disable here, you can disable. So it allows you to disable anything on the UI that you don't quite want or need. Auras, we don't really need to go through. These are, your buffs and auras at the top. Your bag options, so basic, straightforward. You can change the colour of your bags and things like that. Your bars. Now, this isn't actually your sort of bartender bars. This is more the sort of side bar and things like that. So, for example, I can change the right bar to associate with a different bar. So, by default, it's set up to bartender 10. But I can change it to be bartender 4 or whatever I want, and it'll associate it with this side panel. So whenever I click the side panel, the bar will disappear. So that's how you set up the side panels, things like that, and you can set up the other side panel if you want. And chat, basic chat settings, mess with that if you want. We don't really need to go through that. Cooldown settings, once again, nothing we're going to cover. I'm just going to skip through to the more important things. I'm not going to cover everything because you don't need half of this stuff anyway. Minimap settings, basic. Now, the nameplates is the basic nameplates. Now, this is where things get a little bit complex. This is where a lot of the settings come into play. So, for example, if you want to edit your your unit frames. If you want to move them, click on your player one, go down to like general, and then you change these values. So if you add it up, it'll go up. Take it down, it'll go down. Things like that. Then you can change your target as well, and you can move the current positioning on that as well. You can disable the default party frames by going to party and clicking disable. And you can basically do whatever you want here. If you want to change the target to not show buffs, I can make it only show my buffs or everyone's buffs. So I can turn that off and it'll only show my debuffs on the target. Things like that, things if you want to tidy up the UI a little bit. So this allows you to move your things and do basically whatever you want. You can turn on the portrait. So when I click it, I'll have a little portrait there. Whatever you want to do there, you can basically do. So that's a look at the unit frames. There's a bit more in depth you can go, but that's basically all you'll really need to know about that. You can set up the XP bar if you really want to. Move that. You can make it always show. So if you always want to see your XP there, you can. Just basic things like that you can do in these settings. So that's a look at the nameplates. And the final thing we're going to take a look at is bartender. If it's going to load for me. Don't think it's going to load. 1 second. Let me just quickly reload the UI. So because there's been a new patch, that's affected my UI, and it'll probably happen to yours. If your UI is out of date, then all you need to do is go to your character screen, go to add-ons and click load out of date add-ons. And now we'll see a lot more features. Unfortunately I had a few of them off there so you can see all of them. But when we log back in again, you'll see everything that we need to see. So as soon as we load, there we go. So now bartender is there, and my bartender's not set up by default, so I'll do /bar. This will open my bartender options, and then if you want to copy a profile from another character, you find the character that you want to use. For me, it's just default. All my characters use the same bar setup, and there you go. So that gives me my nice little bars. And if we do /bar again, so this is where you'll add more bars to your UI, things like that. So for example, if you want to add more bars, you can do it here. You can enable new bars and they'll pop up and you can add them and do whatever you want with them. If you want to move them, you can do that by clicking the unlock button. I definitely recommend taking off bar snapping, because bar snapping makes them like jerk when you're moving them. But turn that off and it makes them like smoother to move, things like that. As you can see, my bottom bar is actually 4 bars in total. I've got 2 long bars and 2 small ones. And then, yeah. Overall, that's how you change that. If you want to remove the macro text, you just go to the bar that you want to remove it on. Or if you want to hide, sorry, if you want to show the hotkey text, go to the bar that you want to show it on and untick this hide hotkey. And you can change the visibility of bars. So if you want one kind of hidden, you can make it so that it fades out when you aren't like mousing when you're not mousing over it, and it'll show up when you do mouse over it. So if you want to have some extra bars but you want them out of the way, you can do it like that. And yeah, so that's basically how you'll set up the UI, how you'll do everything that you need to do on the UI, and that should be the majority of the questions people have regarding the UI out of the way. Now if you do have any other questions, let me know below in the comments and I will get back to you with some help and let you know what's going on. But they're the main questions, like how do you add extra bars, how do you change your nameplates, how do you turn off certain modules within LUI, things like that. So hopefully that's explained them, and good luck. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.